Hello chess fans and welcome to Chess Vibe, and in today's video we are going to see the game between Magnus Andersen versus Pablo Salinas Herrera. So this game is going to be very interesting. If I say that this game is going to be the world best game played in the ever chess history, many of you were thinking that what is the rating? Both the players is not having much rating. Both the players are GMs first of all. So obviously this game is going to be very interesting. Magnus Andersen with the white pieces is having a rating of 2579, and Pablo Salinas Herrera with the black pieces is having a rating of 2514. But don't judge a player by its rating. The game is going to be very interesting. So till then, keep watching Chess Vibes. So Magnus Andersen with the white pieces and Pablo Salinas Herrera with the black pieces. So let's start. So Magnus with the white pieces started with one knight f3. So we are in the Reti opening. We have the d5 by black, e3, knight to f6, c4, c6, asking okay, you can grab my pawn, I'm going to grab the pawn back. So we have knight to c3, e6, having a very nice pawn structure. We have b3, so white is preparing to put the bishop on b2, and with the bishop on b2 would be very powerful. So we have bishop to d6 by black, simply developing the pieces and ready for castling. We have d4 by white, because the idea of white played d4 at the place of bishop b2 was, if white would have played bishop b2, then black would be able to play e5 and black would be having a very nice center. So that's why white played d4 in this position, stopping this e5 idea by black. We have castle by black, queen to c2, putting the queen on a very nice squares, getting all the white squares. We have knight to d7, and now we are in the semi-Slav defense. We have bishop to e2 by white, developing the piece and also ready for castling. So we have b6 by black, preparing to develop the bishop on b7 or rather on a6. Both the places are nice for bishop. So after b6 we have castle by white, bishop to b7, bishop to b2. Here we have queen to e7, and after playing queen e7, black finishes all development. So both the rooks are connected, both the rooks are connected, so the opening is completed till now. So after queen to e7 we have rook to d1 by white, rook to d8 by black, rook to e1 by white, developing the piece, and also there could be some counterplay on the e5. So after rook e1 we have rook to e8 by black, bishop to f1, and now we have c5 by black. Now the position is going to be very open, because now there are going to be many exchanges. Now it's white who will decide which pawn white wants to capture. So in the game we have c into d5 by black, by white, asking black that how black wants to capture up the pawn. Does black wants to capture up the pawn, with the knight, or with the bishop? So in the game we have e into d5, opening up this e5, because the queen and the rook is now perfectly placed. So we have g3 by white. So white is preparing to play bishop on g2, and white would be the white king would be very safe. So after g3 we have rook to c8 by black. So the idea is definitely to capture up the pawn on d4, perhaps playing bishop to b4, putting pressure on the knight on c3, because the knight cannot move because the queen is threatening on c2. So here we have bishop to h3 by white, a very nice move by white, developing the piece and also putting the pressure on the knight as well as the rook. So the knight cannot move from the d7 square now, because the rook is hanging on c8. So after bishop to h3 we have c into d4 by black, we have knight into d4, we have bishop to b4 by black, pinning up the knight, and the knight is double pinned, because if the knight will move, the queen is attacked as well as the rook is attacked on e1. So a very nice move by black by playing bishop to b4, and now we have knight to e2 by white. Idea is very simple. White bring back the knight to e2, because now the knight is protecting the knight on c3. But there could be a better move in the position. At the place of playing knight to e2, a better move in the position was to play f3 in this position. The reason white played f3 in this position is, here white is preparing to play rook c1 and perhaps queen d3, and now then white can move the knight from the c3 square by first playing rook to g1, and white is perfectly fine in the position. But what happened in the game after knight to e2, this move was a blunder. You are going to see why this move was blunder. After knight to e2, we have knight to e4 by black. Knight to e4 was a fine move, but the better move to get a nice position in this current position was to play knight to e5 in this position. Knight to e5 is a very powerful move, because the idea of playing knight to e5 in this position here is, here black is threatening to play knight to f3 check and also attacking the rook on e1. So many of you were thinking the rook is hanging on c8. The best move according to engine is to play bishop to g2. But if white tries to capture up the rook by playing bishop into c8, now comes rook into many of you were thinking that here comes knight to f3 check, which is the right move. But after knight f3 check, we have king g2, and now many of you were thinking that okay, now black will capture up the rook on e1 and then he will capture the bishop on c8. No, this is not the right continuation. After king g2, black is going to play a very powerful move, which is capturing up the bishop on c8 with the rook. Here black is giving up the knight on f3, so white is not having much to do. He has to capture up the knight on f3. So after knight into f3, there comes a very powerful move by black, pushing up the pawn to d4, and now it's a check to the white king, and even the knight is attacked on c3. So the best move for white in this position is to push the pawn to e4, because the king was not having much squares to go, so you have to push up the pawn. But after e4, now we have knight into e4, very fantastic move by black. Here first of all, the queen cannot capture up the knight because bishop will simply capture the queen back. The best move in this position for white is to play knight into e4. But after knight into e4, black will play simply rook into c2, capturing up the queen, and it's completely losing position for white, because here the knight is attacked on e4, the rook is attacked on e1, the bishop is attacked on b2, and it's completely bad position for white. So after knight to e5, if white plays bishop to g2 in this position, now comes d4 by black, a very strong move in this position. The idea of playing d4 in this position here is, first of all, it doesn't matter if you try to capture up my bishop, I'm simply going to capture it back. So the idea of playing g4 in this position here is, the d4 pawn is now attacking the knight on c3. So if white tries to simply capture up the pawn on d4, now comes a very solid move, first capturing up the bishop. After king into g2, now comes the only move, queen to b7 check, using the queen as a bishop. So after queen b7 check, now white have to push up the pawn, because if white tries to move the king, then knight f3 is a very strong move, so white have to push up the pawn. So after d5, we have knight into d5, very nice move by black. First of all, you cannot capture the knight because your queen is hanging on c2. So if you try to play queen to e4, saying okay, you can't move your knight because your queen is hanging on b7. But now comes a very powerful move, knight to d3, a very nice move by black. The idea of playing knight to d3 in this position here is, the rook is attacking the queen on e4. So if you try to capture up the knight on d3, then after knight to f4 check, it's a double check with the queen as well as the knight, and in the next move, black is simply going to capture up the queen. So the best move according to white is to capture up the knight on d5. But after knight into d5, here black is going to play knight into e1 check. So if white tries to capture up the knight, now comes queen into d5 check. After knight into d5, you have to capture up the queen because you will be lost. So after knight into d5, we have bishop into e1 by black, and you can count the material. It's completely winning position for black. So this was the reason that in this position knight to e5 was a nice move. But in the game, knight e4 was there, which was not a bad move at all, because the next move which white have to find is very strong move. I think only agents can find this move, not and Mikhail Tal also. So if you can also try to find the best move for white to equalize the position. So feel free to pause the video and try to find the best move for white in this position. I'll give you a couple of seconds. So okay, so all those who have found the phenomenal move in this position is to capture the knight on e4 with the queen. Please tell me in the comment section who have all successfully found this move. The idea of capturing up the knight with the queen in the game, a3 was played by white, but the right move is to capture up the knight, and this is the only move which equalizes the position. The reason queen into e4 is the best move in this position here is, first of all, you cannot capture the queen with the queen, because then white will simply capture the queen with the knight. So you have to capture up the queen with the pawn. But now comes rook into d7 by white. First of all, capturing up the knight, attacking the queen as well as the bishop, and the rook on d7 is protected by the bishop on h3. So it's a very powerful move. So you have to move the queen. After queen f6, we have rook into b7 by white. And after a couple of moves, bishop into c3, bishop into c3, rook into c3, knight into c3, queen into c3, attacking the rook. So rook have to move from the e1 square. So after rook d1, here black plays g6 because there would be no back rank ideas in the future. But now comes rook to d7. The idea is to capture up the pawn on f7, so which is very strong. So black have to play rook f8, and after rook into a7, black can play h5, and it's an equal position. Basically, it's rook bishop versus a queen, but seeing the position currently, it's an equal position. So the game would have been ended in a draw. But a3 was played in the game after knight to e4, and definitely a3 looks the most human move. The idea of playing a3 is to kick the bishop from the b4 square, and after bishop g6, white can move the queen, and it's a fine position. But after a3, now comes a fantastic move by Pablo Salinas Herrera, which is knight into f2, a fantastic move played by black. The reason knight into f2 is the best move in this position here is, first of all, black is threatening to capture up the bishop on h3. So in the game, white played a into b4, captured up the bishop. If white would have captured up the knight in this position by playing king into f2, now comes queen into e3 check. First of all, now white is having two squares, he can go to g2 or f1. g2 doesn't make any sense because black is going to push the pawn with a check, and it's game over for white. So if white tries to play king f1, still it's a game over, because now comes queen f3 check, king g1, now comes bishop to c5 check. King is having no square, so knight e4 is forced. After knight d4, we have bishop into d4 check, rook into d4, rook into e1 check. After bishop f1, queen into f1, and it's a game over for white. This is the reason that after knight into f2, it's a very powerful move. So after knight into f2, white played a into b4, capture of the bishop, which made the most logical move. Now comes knight into h3 check by black, capturing of the bishop with a check. So white played king to f1, because going to g2 or h1 makes no sense, because black will push the pawn, attacking the king with the bishop, and even the knight is hanging on c3, and it's going to be game over. That's why white played king to f1. But now comes a very powerful move, queen into e3, and this is the most natural move in this position. The idea of capturing of the pawn here is, now black is threatening to play queen f2, and it's game over. And even queen f3 is very sharp. So after queen into e3, white made the most logical move in this position, which is to play queen to f5. The idea is very simple. White is first of all stopping this queen f2 ideas, and second, now white is threatening to capture up the knight on h3. So after queen f5, now comes a very nice move by black, which is to play knight to f6. Wow, the reason knight to f6 is the most powerful move in this position here, first of all, knight f6 is definitely very hard to find, because black is just giving up the piece on h3. The reason you cannot capture up the knight on h3 in this position here, because there is the only single move for black which wins the position for black. Here comes queen to f3 check, the only move. Here the king is forced to go to g1. Now comes actually now there are many moves for black to win this position. Even knight g4 is winning, queen e3 check is winning, and even d4 is winning, because there's queen h1 checkmate, and it's a game over for black. Actually knight g4 is very simple winning. There is queen f2 check, then pushing up the pawn, and it's game over for the white. That's why queen into h3 was not played in the game, and at the place of queen into h3, white decided to play bishop to c1, putting psychological pressure on the black queen, because now the white is attacking the queen. So one should do is to move the queen, but no, the move black played made the game very interesting, and that's why I think this is the best game played in the chess history. Because now black played knight to g4 by black, a very fantastic another move. The reason knight g4 was a very spectacular move in this position is, first of all, you cannot capture up the queen, because after knight into e3, it's a checkmate. Your king is not having a single square to go. White both pieces are covering the squares, and it's complete checkmate. That is the reason white cannot capture up the queen. So first of all, you can not also capture up the knight on g4 because there is a checkmate on f2. So in the game, white played rook to d3, the most logical move, attacking the queen on e3. But now comes d4 by black, another spectacular move. The reason of playing g4 here is now the black is utilizing his bishop on b7 by covering the g2 square as well as the h1 square. And if you try to capture up the queen, knight into h2 is a simple checkmate. So after playing d4, now white played rook to d1. And now I want all of you guys to feel free to pause the video and try to find mate in 2 by black. I'll give you a couple of seconds. So okay, so all of those who have found the right move, congratulations on finding mate in 2. But in the game, it's very hard to find mate in 2 because we never know where there is mate. If I tell you that there is a mate in 2, I think many of you would be able to find it, because still the move is very tricky. The right move in this position is to play queen to g1 check, a spectacular move by black. Here white is having nothing to do. White cannot capture the queen with the king because knight is protecting the queen. So the only move and the fourth move is to capture up the queen with the knight, which was played in the game. And after knight into g1 comes a very natural move, and the fourth move, knight into h2, and it's a checkmate. Game over for white. Knight covers everything, the bishop covers the square, the rook is covering the 2 squares, and it's a checkmate. White king is not having a single square, and it's a perfect checkmate. So tell me guys that this game was interesting or not. So tell me in the comment box that did you like this whole game played by Pablo Salinas Herrera, and kudos to Magnus Andersen. He knew that there's a checkmate, but he accepted the checkmate because many people resigned the game, but he accepted the checkmate. So both the players played very well. So congratulations to both the players and to Pablo Salinas Herrera to qualify for the second round for the FIDE World Cup 2021. So guys, if you like this game, then please like to my video. If you are new to my channel, then please subscribe to my channel. Share this video with your friends. I will come up with these new videos for you because the tournament is just started and many rounds are going to come. So till then, stay tuned, stay safe. Thank you for watching, and bye bye.